Jim Thorpe is a conventional name. Many academies, sports fields, hospitals, and even rehabilitation centers are named after this outstanding famous athlete. Jim Thorpe is known as the greatest athlete of the 20th century. He played almost every sport imaginable. But what is the whole story, and how did Jim Thorpe start out? This iconic athlete's real name is James Francis Thorpe. He was known to a numerous amount of people as Jim. He was born on May 28, 1887 in what is today Prague, Oklahoma. He was part of the Sac and Fox Native American tribe, and as a young child, his dad taught him to break horses, and he learned to chase after the horses that would run away. His Native American name was Wathohuk, which translates to Bright Path. He was sent off to many boarding schools and Indian academies throughout his early childhood away from his parents. Jim had a very exceptional sports career, but not so much an academic career. Jim went to 2 previous schools before transferring to Carlisle Indian Industrial School. He fell into a bad habit of being truant, causing him to transfer from school to school. During this time, one could infer he became depressed due to Charlie, his twin brother's unexpected death to pneumonia. Then, not long after Charlie, Jim's mom died of blood poisoning, and his dad died of the same fatality. Jim was placed at Carlisle, where he eventually graduated. Jim attended a school that was considered cultural genocide. At Carlisle Indian Industrial School, many students were punished for speaking in their native language. Captain Richard Henry Pratt, the school's founder and the dean, once stated, "Kill the Indian and save the man." In this school system, they wanted their students to be pulled from their heritage and forced into being like the civilized Englishmen. Jim used all of his English opportunities to his advantage, thus including academic and athletic opportunity. Jim was athletically gifted at an early age. It was extremely clear he would become a talented athlete. In high school, Jim was noticed by Glenn S. Pop Warner, the school's legendary track coach, as he jumped the high bar at 5'9" randomly in his street clothes. Coach immediately asked him to join the track team. Later in high school, he starred in track and played varsity football as a running back. He also played baseball as pitcher, outfield, and a first baseman. Jim was not very proficient when it came to academics. Before his brother Charlie died, he would help Jim with his studies. Jim was so heartbroken by his brother's death earlier in life that he sprinted home. After being forced to go back to school, Jim decided he wanted to study to be an electrician. Later, he studied and went to vocational school, which was far from electrical work. Jim was never pushed hard enough in school because of his athletic ability. Carlisle didn't care what his grades were, as long as he got a win for the team. Jim graduated college from Haskell Indian University, and during his time there, he created quite a name for himself. He even lettered in 11 sports. Jim found himself excelling at every sport he approached. He continued to play football for Carlisle under Pop Warner, but was also chosen to be halfback on Walter Camp's All-American teams. After college, he went on to play 3 professional sports: baseball, football, and basketball. Jim played baseball for the Rocky Mountain Club in North Carolina through 1909 and 1910. While playing for the team, he was collecting a small payment of only $35 a week. Later, in July 1912, he entered in the Olympics and won gold in the decathlon and pentathlon, also winning in long jump, discus, sprint, and wrestling. The only event he didn't place in was javelin, mainly because he had never practiced, but was involuntarily put in the event. Thorpe was quite an inspiration in the Olympics. If a white man were in his place, he would have been worshipped. Jim did not get worshipped until he died. He would have been so proud of himself if he were only here. During the Olympics, a person stole his shoes before competing, and he had to wear 2 different shoes that had been thrown away. He had to stuff one of the shoes with tissue so it would not slip off while competing. His shoes being stolen showed discrimination towards Jim for his native heritage. To Jim, it may have not been a big deal, but to others it is a very controversial topic. Even with his discarded shoes, he placed high, showing appearance, quality, and what others thought of him didn't matter. Jim Thorpe's medals were stripped from him due to him violating amateurism by playing minor league baseball in 1909 to 1910. He was never told of this rule and it was not made clear in the fine print. This was a devastating time for Jim and his family. Not only did he win and get his award stolen, his title as an Olympian was taken from him. It was not until 30 years after he died when his medals were given to his family. So Jim lived the rest of his life without the title he worked so hard for. Jim was married 3 times throughout his life: Frida Kirkpatrick, Iva Miller, and Patricia Askew. Both Iva and Frida had 4 of Jim's children. Patricia was his most recent wife, who he was with until he died. His children never knew him as the greatest athlete, but as a good dad who worked as deputy in Bureau of Indian Affairs. His children once stated, "Dad always stressed education because he wanted a better life for us. Athletics only take you so far." James Francis Thorpe died March 25, 1953. The battle for his body became national news. During his Oklahoma traditional memorial, Patricia brought a police officer and declared Thorpe's body to be too cold and carried him away in a hearse. Before finding a fitting place for her husband's burial, Patsy called a potential opportunity. In Pennsylvania, where Carlisle University was, a smaller town was about to merge with another town. She proposed a deal that if she gave her husband to them, in exchange they would rename the town after Jim and build a memorial. Patsy sealed the deal by drawing the aspect of Jim bringing tourism to their town, solving some of the economic problems the town was having. Many family members conspiracized her intentions were for money. In conclusion, one could say Jim Thorpe experienced more tragedy than triumph. Jim Thorpe had many exhilarating experiences in life, from high school to the Olympics and even having children. Everyone knows you can't have a rainbow without rain. Jim couldn't have an inspirational life without some unplanned downsides, and this is why he is such an inspiration. We can all take a quick note from Jim, remembering to push your way through the rough times, no matter the damage.